talking about what the 3 C's are. It'll make it really easy for you to know what to eat and what to do now and in the future. So let's give you, first, I know we want to talk about what to eat, but unfortunately the first thing we have to do is talk about what not to eat, okay? So let's go into that. So our first C of what not to eat is, the first C stands for carbohydrates. Now, don't panic, because automatically everyone assumes this is a fad diet, or we're going to get into some obsessive carb counting, and or we're going to be introverting anyone on telling them there's a taboo food or a bad food or a food they can't have. So we will discuss how to kind of have a better mindset on what you, quote, can and cannot have in relation to carbohydrates as a whole food group. So we're going to first talk about what you want to do, regardless of what you're currently doing, is just lessen the carbohydrates. So that's why it says what not to eat. So it's not 0 carbohydrates, it's not a torturesome diet, it's just less than whatever you're currently doing. And then we're going to talk about how to manage that. So I like to call it carbohydrate management and or food or diet management, because it's not just about any one in particular food group, it's about the correct ratios. But the one that gets you the best bang for your buck, so to speak, and when you're trying to be healthy or lose weight or balance your hormones, the one that will have the biggest impact the fastest is carbohydrates. So I'm not picking it to harp or invalidate the carbohydrates, I'm just telling you biochemistry, it's the one we're going to be talking about the most and first, because it's the one that gets us the best benefit the fastest, okay? So now, if you're not supposed to eat carbohydrates, I do want to give you what you're supposed to eat. And then, of course, you have your veggies, your protein, and your fats. So it's not like we're torturing you or putting you on some super restrictive diet. What we're working on first and foremost, it's most important here, is the correct ratio or the correct balance. So as far as what you want to put in first place, ideally, it's going to most likely be a tie between veggies and or protein. Now, I can't really give you the exact order or ratio, because in my practice I do tailor-made programs, and the amount of that you're going to need to do depends on a lot of things, and that's where the program comes into play. It might be a genetic predisposition that you can better metabolize vegetables versus protein versus fats. It might be the fact that you have a compromised immune system at the moment or hormonal imbalance, that your body will better metabolize one food group over the other. And or it could be some digestive upset, or you're missing a body part, such as part of your small intestine or a gallbladder or something. So you're going to have to be cautious and aware that there's no absolute amount or ratio or percentage of each of these food items. It's more in keeping with the correct amount for you and your body. But rule of thumb, if you had to decide, if you were standing there in the grocery store and or at a buffet, what you could be totally certain of is that you want to stay more towards vegetables and proteins and adequate fats. And what you would want to try and have the least amount on the plate, if you're looking at your plate as a pie chart and kind of chopping it up into slices, the one you want to be the smallest is the carbohydrates. So the first C on what to eat is more of a what not to eat, and that's to reduce or eliminate or bring down substantially your carbohydrates in general. Now, when we're talking about bringing them down, how far down are we talking? So the number, there actually is a magic number that where health kind of starts and stops. So what we're going to do is, let me just flip the board here, is what is the number? And so here is where disease is, let's say. Disease is at the top of the chart. This was some major diagnoses or situation, health problem. And down here at the bottom would be perfect health. So if we could have the complete dichotomy here. So perfect health versus total disease, okay? And on this scale, from top to bottom, you have levels of carbohydrates that contribute to either optimum or perfect health or disease. And the number, or the magic number, kind of the make-break point where health starts. So health starts here, just like on a road map. that anything you eat above will lead to disease, and anything you eat below will lead to optimum health. And this number, the magic number right here at the make break point, is 75 grams of carbohydrates per day. So this is the make break point. So total health, closer to zero that you can get. Away from health, total disease would be anything higher than 75 grams. So why is it the 75 grams? Is this some just random number I made up to kind of make you cry about what possibly you could be eating? No, it feels like it, but I promise you it's not. This is based on 27 years of research between clinical application in my practice and then also observation, scientific literature, major scholarly studies, etc. Like, where did this number come from? So what it has to do with is we're taking a look at your basic metabolism and your biochemical processes that your body's doing every second of every day. And when you take a look at the literature and you see what the body needs to do all of its functions throughout the day, provide you with adequate energy, both at the cellular level and then at the body level for you to get through your daily routine, the number or amount that that body needs is 75, and actually it can be a lot less. Because remember I said health starts at 75. So the optimum number is actually slightly lower, probably more in the 50 to 60 grams range. But if you were to daily, routinely eat more than the 50 or 60 and you did approximately 75 on average, you would be totally fine because you're at least right below the make break point. So we're looking at a biochemical, a metabolic number here. It's not a matter of just someone's opinion. It's about biochemically what you need to have your body function at the correct level. Now, if you want better health, let's say, for example, at the 75, you're getting one headache per week, whereas you were getting them daily, or you're down 20 pounds, but you'd like to be down 30 pounds, or whatever the case may be, you just gradiently bring the number down until you find what I call your own magic number. So 75 may or may not be your magic number, but you just bring it down until you find what I call your magic number. It could be 62, 57, doesn't matter, but the whole idea is to find the magic number that works for you from a carbohydrate standpoint. Then, now that you know what you need to do from a carbohydrate standpoint, you fill in the rest of your plate or the rest of your diet accordingly with the protein, the vegetables, and the fats that we had just talked about. And again, there's no right or wrong way or ratio to do that. It's more of a tailor-made approach to finding out where you feel the best. So if you first and foremost got the carbs, let's say it's 65, then you can fill in accordingly the other food groups. Now, a lot of people are always asking me, and why we're doing this as a lecture series, is what to eat. And interestingly enough, the answer is that I don't know. But I'll tell you how I could know, and actually more important, how you could know. What happens biochemically is when you bring the carbohydrates down below 75, you actually turn on a core, I call it the caveman brain. Because the body's like, hey, for some reason, looks like some of our carbohydrate intake is going away, and we're kind of hungry in here. So how are we going to tell this body, this person, this machine, that we need a little bit more fuel in here? And if you do this correctly, what will happen is your body will start making you crave foods, but good foods. So in order to answer the question what to eat, I'm going to tell you, I don't know. Step one, bring your carbohydrates down below 75, and then step two, listen to what your body asks for in replacement. Might make you start craving the wildest foods. You might start craving salads or cucumbers or olives or cheese cubes, or I don't know. But that's the beauty and the innate intelligence of this body, is that if you do right by it, it'll do right by you. But you have to get the carbohydrate noise, so to speak, out of the way, or you can't hear what the body's trying to tell you about proteins, fats, and veggies. So step one, get out the carbohydrates. Step two, listen to your body so you can start finding out what amount of foods and food groups to eat that best suit you. If you hate red apples, there's a good chance your body's never going to crave red apples. If you despise cabbage, there's a good chance your body's never going to turn on, hey, let me eat cabbage. It's usually going to go back through the filing cabinet here in the files from decades prior and think about when were we as a body last doing well, and it'll kind of sift through. like, all right, I remember us at 11 years old, we were doing awesome. And the brain, well, literally, it has a photographic memory of all of these things, and it'll go back and it'll make you crave things from years prior. So you need to listen to what that is and start kind of giving into it in a very positive way on what the body really needs. But it starts with bringing the carbohydrates down so we can clear out all the noise, and then we can actually hear and start honoring the requests of the body. So that's the first thing. Now, why are the carbohydrates so bad? So again, it's not a matter of that I'm trying to put you on a fad diet or tell you that carbohydrates are taboo. Carbohydrates are bad in large quantities, just like many things in life are bad in large quantities. So if you have 7 ants on your property, ants are not a problem when there's 7 of them. But if you have 777,000 ants on your property, it's now a problem. So it's not an ant is a good insect or it's a bad insect. It's more of a quantity thing on how much of an infestation, let's say, do you have, or a detriment can you possibly have on your hands. So what we're looking at here with the grams of carbohydrates, it's not carbohydrates are good versus bad. It's like where, according to your body's biochemistry, does it become an infestation? And the answer is right around 75 grams. So why is this a problem? Because you have to understand that anytime you eat a carbohydrate, your body has to secrete something called insulin, okay? And insulin is your body's reaction to having sugar in the bloodstream. So the second it's secreted, it's quite dangerous to have a lot of blood sugar and have high blood sugar or high glucose in the bloodstream. So your body has to immediately excrete out something known as insulin to hurry up and get the glucose out of your bloodstream because it's very dangerous to be there. Now, what happens though is that if the carbohydrate overload wasn't enough to upset the bloodstream, now with the secretion and this release of the insulin, this now gives the body a second burden. It's got to secrete all the insulin, and guess what it needs to do next? Now it has to get all the insulin out. So you can see when you eat carbohydrates, it's very detrimental and very burdensome to the body. Now, why carbohydrates? This is where the way they're designed biochemically. And interestingly enough, you do not have to do this when you eat protein, and you do not have to do this when you eat fats, and you do not have to do this when you eat green vegetables. It's your higher sugary fruits and higher higher carbohydrate concentration vegetables, and your grains, rice, carbohydrate as well. So it's only carbohydrates that secrete the insulin, and that's why it's a problem. We don't want insulin to be secreted. We don't want insulin floating around because insulin is kind of your body's alarm bell telling it, hey, there's a problem, and this is your body's reaction. So it's a great survival technique your body has in case you were ever to run into a problem. But the problem with modern day dieting is the body is running into this meal to meal, day to day. It only expected this to be an emergency a few times a year, not a few times a day. And this is how it's contributing to your overall disease process, is you are overwhelming the body more often than it was ever designed to be burdened in the first place. So it gives you more symptoms. Because what are your symptoms? Your symptoms are your body's alarm bell saying, hey up there, you're doing something wrong, please stop. And what we're here to do is talk about where is the number one emergency, and it's usually in the amount of carbohydrates that you're currently eating. So we want to keep down the carbohydrates so we do not secrete the insulin, so we do not put our body into emergency or panic mode. All right. The next thing then is why 75 as a number, like I said before. It's a biochemical thing, but why? So here's the answer to that. So regardless of, we can't get into the details of it, but the bottom line is basically, I try to explain it like I would a car gas tank. So you have a tank in your car, okay, or your automobile. So here it is, so your vehicle, we'll use that word. Vehicle, I can't even spell. All right, so you have a tank in your vehicle, and then this tank, let's say you have a 12-gallon tank. Good. So when you go to the gas station and put in gas in your car, do you ever put more than 12 gallons in? No. Why? Because you already know you have a 12-gallon tank. But let's say you did not know you had a 12-gallon tank and you filled it up to the top, and then you kept going and you kept pushing the nozzle. What would happen? That extra gas would spill out because you only have a 12-gallon tank, and it would spill on your hands, the side of your car, the pavement, etc. Well, the reason the 75 is the same is true for your body. So your tank, so to speak, your sugar tank, is a 75, quote, gram, or let's pretend it was gallons. So whether it's gallons or grams, this is a 12-gallon tank, and this is a, quote, 75, if we're using the car example here, gallon, but it's a 75-gram, quote, gallon or gram tank. It's not designed to have any more, based on the biochemical mechanism we just talked about with insulin, to have any more than 75 in there over about a 24-hour period. Now, the problem is that when you go above and you start doing the same example here, when this spills out, as you know, it doesn't spill out of your pores and end up on the floor or the ground. It actually has to be metabolized and stay in you. So where does your body put this? Well, several different places. So where is it going to store this? It stores it in fat cells. It stores it in joint spaces. And it stores it in certain tissues, like the brain tissue. And muscle tissue. Good. So, now that we're talking about biochemically, what we're looking at here, if anyone watching has a weight problem or has cellulite or is trying to lose weight or get fat cells to be broken down, what do you need to do? Stop overfilling your tank. If you have joint pain or arthritis or chronic knee pain, or you go to the chiropractor every week and you still have that same pain, what do we know? You have too much carbohydrates stored in the joint spaces. If you have brain fog, memory problems, emotional upsets, moodiness, what do we know? You have it stuck in the brain tissue. If you have muscle pain, fibromyalgia, sore muscles, stiff muscles, you can't go to the gym, you do go to the gym and you feel worse after the gym. What do we know? Too much stored in the muscle tissue. And this is true for just about everything in the body top to bottom, but these are the 4 key categories. So when people tell me they can't lose weight, now that you see this, what do you know? They're eating more than 75 grams of carbs and they have an overspill in their tank. You talk to anybody, you go out for dinner, they're complaining about their lumbago, their head this, their knee that. What do you know? You know they're eating more than 75 grams of carbohydrates per day. If they have brain fog, memory issues, they're blaming it on being a mom. They're blaming it on having a stressful job. They're blaming it on getting old. What do you actually know the truth is? They have too much overflow into the brain tissue. They're telling you that their muscles are sore or atrophy, or they don't have the body they did 10, 20 years ago, or they just can't get out of the bed in the morning because everything hurts. What do we know? Overspill, too much carbohydrates stuck in the muscle tissue. So what you have to do is go get all of the extra burnt out, metabolized out, get the number below 75, and as you do that, day by day, week by week, these symptoms will start getting better. So the more you bring down the number for the more weeks in the row, the less symptoms you will have. So this is an actual correlation, direct 1-to-1 ratio. Okay, good.
Comment.
Yes.
75 carbs seems really low.
It does seem really low because you've been lied to about the number. So the problem is that what we have been told or taught over the history in the food pyramid, our grade school education, etc., it's not a low number, it's the correct number. So that's what we have to get out of, is based on what? So the number you have been told or taught is the incorrect number to begin with. So 75 is not, quote, low, it's the correct number. So again, a lot of what we were talking about last time is it's the mindset. So anything in life is not expensive or cheap. Anything in life is not good or bad. It depends on the viewpoint and the positioning from where you're coming from. So you might not like the number, but it's just that's the number. So you might be saying, a great example, because I always use houses and cars. So that's like telling me I drive a Honda Accord, and my gas tank is only 10 gallons. That's too low. According to what? It's just a number. So the manufacturer decided that that car is going to have a 10-gallon tank. That's what you get. It's not a high number nor a low number. It's just the number. When you take a look at this machine, if you want to look at it like a car, the creator of this machine decided it had a 75-gram tank. That's not a high number or a low number. It's the number the machine was designed to function at properly. So get out, to get out of the mindset of thinking that something, again, is high or low or good or bad. It's like, what is the correct estimation of what you need to do for carbohydrates or anything in life? Let's take a look at savings. How much money do you need to save? There is no right or wrong number. It depends on where you're at, what you're trying to achieve, how high or how low that number needs to be to get to whatever you're trying to do from a financial reward. Okay, good. So then the next thing here then is how to do this then. So we're talking about the carbohydrates. So to make it easy on yourself, and the proof is in the pudding, by the way. So this isn't anything that I'm like, I don't dream this stuff up at night. I've learned it, I put it to the test, and then I ask you, or you see if you want to apply it. So how you're going to do this to see if it works is over here. If I were you, I would put all my pain or problems or complaints on a scale, 1 to 10, okay? So you have problem X and it's an 8, and you have problem Y and it's a 9, and you have problem Z and it's a 4. So journal, track. And then what you're going to do on this side is over the next several weeks, I would start first, get the number of where you're at currently. So let's say you're currently eating 225 grams of carbohydrates, and you have this score, these pain and problems at this number. What you want to do then is each week bring this down by 25. So then next week, let's do 200. And then next week, let's do 175. And then next week, we do 150. And you just keep going down, while each week you're also journaling how these numbers are doing. So if these numbers start coming down or getting better as you're bringing this now down, or it starts getting better and you see a direct correlation, you won't worry about is the number high or low, because here's my hidden agenda for you, is I just want you to look and feel awesome. I'm not here to argue about the biochemistry or carbohydrates or insulin. This is my only hidden agenda right here, is to get you to look and feel awesome. And I'm just telling you from 27 years of clinical experience that the way to do this is by the magic recipe here that we have. Okay? All right, a few more things and then we're going to wrap it up. So if you are a patient of mine, you should have, or you may ask for, some handouts, brochures. So anybody watching who's local, this is why I had asked you to come in to the live event here in my office. So fine if you're watching virtual. My patients, you'll have to ask for it on your next visit if you don't have it already. Is we have a cheat sheet. It's called What to Eat. And this is basically all the protein, vegetables, and fats that are acceptable. So if you don't have the What to Eat menu, please ask us for that. And then on the flip side, when you're struggling with food options, you don't know what to do, we highly encourage you either short-term or long-term to fill in the gap with smoothies. So we have plenty of different brands and quality and flavor of protein powders that are actually digestible, because most protein powders aren't, worth anything. So it's got to be one you're actually going to utilize. And then you can use different liquids, and you can add things for flavor, and you can make it more savory or spicy with some Tabasco or some cayenne pepper. You can make a more sweet one. You can make it more chai or oatmeal cookie. So we have all kinds of liquids, all kinds of additives, how to make it really high fat, how to make it even extra protein, how to have it stick to your ribs, how to hide it in coffee, all kinds of wonderful things we can do with a protein powder and or with protein smoothies. So if you're struggling with what to eat in general, that's a great little hack or cheat to try until you figure it out. And some people enjoy it so much they just end up doing it long term. The next thing I would encourage you to do, so you don't take my word for it, is there's a website where there's a called the Sugar Alert brochure, and it talks about a lot of the research and where I got my information from, so you don't think I just, like I said, dream this up at night. So between nonprofit organizations with the true data on how to be healthy and scholarly articles, it's called Sugar Alert, and you can go, it's called the Weston A. Price Foundation, and you can go and learn all about sugar, carbohydrates, diet, what we have eaten as a traditional culture, so westonaprice.org. And I'm going to leave you with why the carbohydrate content, as we had asked about it being, quote, so high, is interestingly enough, is we never used to eat as many carbohydrates as we used to. So just some statistics for you. In the 1700s, the average consumption of sugar was 4 pounds per person per year. So I'll say that again, 4 pounds per person per year. In the 1800s, we now increased it to 18 pounds per year. And in the 1900s, it was up to 90 pounds per year. And the most increase in modern day is up over 100 to 150 pounds now per year, depending on where you are on this carbohydrate scale. And unfortunately, most of it since 1975 has come in hidden food sources. And the most common hidden food source is high fructose corn syrup. So you need to become a new label reader and start taking a look at the quantity and the quality of the carbohydrates you're eating. Interestingly enough, simultaneously, when we talked about the disease, since 1890, only the obesity rate, only white males overweight, 3.4%. And then by 1975, it was 15%. And then today, the rate is over 32% of the public is obese. So when we were doing 4 pounds per year, we had an obesity rate of less than 3.4%. And now that we're doing anywhere between your lifestyle, 100 to 150, we're at 32%. 1/3 of the population is overweight. So when you're asking if the number is too low, the number is not too low. It's the correct number. So you do the math on if you only ate 4 pounds of sugar per year and you divide that out over 52 weeks, how many grams of carbohydrates would that be per day? And I guarantee you it would be right back under the 75. All right, well, I'd like to thank everyone for joining in. That's C number 1. We have 2 more C's to go, and we'll be doing that on the next weeks. I'm gonna go back. Woohoo! Good. We have C number 1. We have carbohydrates. We still have C number 2 and C number 3 to go. So these are the 3 C's for what to eat. So thanks so much for watching, and have a great night.
Touch of the X.
Mm-hmm.